Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Station and this series of videos which was recorded during the 2011 Rab TGO challenge, which for the uninitiated is a 200-mile walk from the west coast to the east coast of Scotland, organised by TGO magazine, and the entry forms for it can be found in the October issue each year. Now what I've tried to do in this video is record well, the landscape and what the experiences are like to actually do a 2-week walk of this nature across that sort of landscape, showing you the routes we took and also some of the weather conditions. Sadly, the weather conditions this year weren't particularly good, which resulted in us doing very few pieces to camera. We had hoped to do a lot more in camp and explaining sort of the equipment we've used and the reasons why we chose it or taken it. However, what we've done this time, because of the situation, is we've still recorded the event, we've recorded the conditions as best we can, and we've broken down equipment reviews at the end of each of these videos. So, I hope you enjoy it, and here's our experience of walking across Scotland in 2011. Looking at the shelter system we used an old favourite of ours which we've got here, which is the Terra Nova Solar 2. We've had it probably about 6-7 years now, and we like it because it's gives us plenty of space inside. I'm 6'2", there's a good width so that we have time to spread out lengthways, but also because of the footprint and the wide open door here, we can swivel round and we have plenty of vestibule to work in. It's, as I say, it's an old model. We did update it to the 2.2 a couple of years ago, but felt that the inner nest was considerably smaller and we were very frustrated with it. But there are new models that have come out since. But simply put, we were very pleased with this. We did change the pegs that come with it to our titanium pegs and put on the high visibility heat shrinking material on the peg heads, and that made the pegs very easy to spot during the wet and miserable weather. So let's move on to the sleep system. I'll do me first. I start with that. This is the Rab Neutrino SL, which is a top bag system. As you can see, it's inside a silicone pod sack, and we were very grateful for our waterproof sacks this year. As I say, it was continual rain for about 6 or 7 days and nights, and nothing ever got wet, thankfully, inside these bags. Then we've got a pod compression sack. The weight of this bag is very light. I think it's only about 400 or so grams. But I wanted to try a top bag system out and compare it to my other one, which was the Golite system, and I'll talk about that in a second. So we kept inside the bags, we keep the silk liner. Always sleep inside a silk liner just to help prevent obviously dirt, or reduce the amount of dirt that's inside the sleeping bag. And these silk liners at Backpackinglight come with a nice silver edge to them, so you can find where the liner is when you're trying to get back in after going to the loo in the middle of the night. And there's the bag. It's being a top bag system, obviously all the insulation is in the top of the bag. The base has no insulation at all, but it does have a Pertex backing, and then inside that there's a Pertex sleeve, and there's the sleeve there. And so I'll mention this first of all. I started off using the Pacific Outdoor Peak Elite sleeping mat, but sadly I had a puncture on the first night, which was a bit unfortunate. So I spent the next 6 days sleeping on 2 sit mats. In fact, these ones we've got here, and a couple of those, which actually wasn't that uncomfortable. But thankfully a buddy of mine up in Scotland rescued us and provided me with a Prolite 3 short, and that slots down the inside slot here in the back of the bag there to create a fairly firm surface. Was I warm enough? Well, there didn't seem to be the extremes of temperature this year. As I say, it was more wet and a continual cold weather all the way through. It wasn't the highs and lows of bright sunshine and then during the day and then frost during the night. So I didn't really feel that cold, but if I was concerned I was going to feel cold, I also then doubled it up with these 2 items, also you notice in dry bags, one of which was my favourite Liv down smock, which is a down smock. There you go, like that, and that's a favourite of mine. And then on my legs I had the Rab Primaloft trousers, which are there, and certainly the times I thought I was going to be cold, or as soon as I got into the tent when we were obviously wet, we took our wet gear off, put this on straight away in the tent, and actually made for a much more comfortable environment inside the tent. I kept them on then when I went to bed, and during the night it just got too hot and it all came off. So that helped. So I had a much lighter sleeping system combined with the sleeping mat and the added insulation layers, which I was going to be using anyway, so I got 2 uses out of these insulation layers. And that was pretty well my sleeping system.
had some female specific stuff to try out this trip, which was great. I had the Pacific Outdoors Peak Elite women's version, which is lovely purple just for us, which apparently has got reflective properties where we want it, around the hips and in the feet area. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that, but you can actually see it in the mat. Very comfortable, no leaks. It was absolutely brilliant throughout. Took a bit of puff getting it blown up, but otherwise it was a very comfortable to sleep on it. Absolutely perfect. Sleeping bag, I had the new Rab Neutrino women's specific, again as you can see in the same bag system as Bob had for his. And I was quite interested to try this because I've always loved my older Rab bag, which again was female specific. But this one, when I laid them on top of each other, it was interesting. This is slightly shorter than the last one, slightly more fill, and also slightly wider at the hips. There's my silk liner. Lovely saffron colour, and it was brilliant actually. It's got a hood, it's got a lovely shoulder baffle inside there, very easy to manipulate, a left-hand zip, and just extremely comfortable. Most of the time I was perfectly warm with that. I usually wear this is an old Thermasilk top that Bob had years ago and discarded, and I use it as a nightie, which is really nice and warm, comes just below my bum. And then I often wear a pair of my dry socks as well, because if I've got cold feet I don't sleep. So, and I think most nights that was sufficient. It was beautifully warm with the silk liner. Just one or two nights was quite chilly, and then I'd just grab my old down jacket, Golite down jacket, and either just put that inside with me, or just lay it over the top of me, and with that I was perfectly warm.
So basically between us, we didn't really have any nights where we felt particularly cold. We had a fairly comfortable trip. Certainly Rose had a more comfortable trip than I did.
Yeah.
The first few days were a bit awkward with just a top bag and a couple of sit mats to sleep on. But otherwise, no, the Rab bags worked out perfectly well, and everything else bar my first puncture was fine.